something that Jonathan and I haven't done in a while is really adjust, some kind of those early questions, right? If we were in a elevator and we had a new investor come up to us and say, "Hey, how do I get started? How do I do what you do?" So we're going to play the game of ping pong. Jonathan is going to talk about multifamily. I am going to talk about single family or residential. Jonathan, you're the guest. What would be the first thing you'd advise someone?
So I think if you were interested in multifamily, I think really the first thing to think about is take an honest self-assessment of where you are right now in terms of your own finances. And the reason I think you should do that, it's not to say that you need your own money to do these deals. I mean, absolutely not. But you need to sort of know where you stand, and that'll help you figure out who you need to meet and where you need to go. So the biggest thing that you need to understand about multifamily and commercial real estate is that the way that loans are handed out is very different. They're based partly on, well, I should say primarily on the cash flow of the property, but the banks, having learned their lessons from the defaults of the great financial crisis, now want to make sure that if things really go bad, you have the wherewithal to pay the loan yourself. And this is different from recourse debt. Now, if you go to like a local bank, you're going to get recourse debt, and then you really need to have the net worth. But you also, even for non-recourse debt, you still need to have the net worth, because if you trip over there are various triggers that can convert it into recourse debt, and they're hard to trip, but I mean, it's just a fail safe, right? So you need to have that net worth. And so sit down and figure out what your net worth is. That will tell you the size of the loan that you can get. And then you can either say, okay, I'm going to do this on my own if I have the cash, or I'm going to go out and start finding investors to join with me. But what I see all too often happening, it's just a big waste of people's time. They hear somebody say something like, it's as much work to buy a 10-unit deal as it is to buy a 300-unit deal. So you might as well start bigger and you'll get paid more. Now, this is all true, but the thing is, like, I see people with no net worth and no network and no ability to raise money coming to me with like a 300-unit deal saying, "Hey, I found this deal." And let's put aside the fact that like everybody's already seen this deal. I'm on the same email list as they got themselves
days on market of 250. Yeah, nobody else.
Yeah, it's not a special deal that like we're going to do. But put that aside, they're not realistic about where they can get started. Right now, there always are the stories out there of the person who gets started with that first deal, but it's just not realistic or normal, right?
Yeah.
You got to be realistic. So the first thing, as I said, understand your own financial situation. If it's good enough to go after a small deal, maybe you just want to pursue it yourself. If it's not, then you want to start looking for partners who can join forces with you to get the net worth up to where it needs to be, maybe contribute some capital. And that's kind of where that's the very first thing I would say to do.
Yeah, my first thing has definitely evolved over time, and I think it's changed probably in the last 60 days. So a lot of people probably haven't heard this. Is I would probably ask them why. Like why are you getting started, right? One rental at a time. Did you see some bigger pockets or YouTube University? Do you think it's easy? Are you chasing the latest fad? Right? Why are you doing this? Right? Is it because you want to build a portfolio of 1,000 units because bigger is better, and what are you doing this for? So I think the really first thing I would ask them is why, because I call them shooting stars. I don't know if a better analogy, but they come in all fired up and excited and almost vibrating. And, in 10, 20 days, maybe a month, maybe 45 days, they're off to the next thing that they're vibrating about. They've not done anything. And that's an annoying waste of my time. So yeah, one of the first conversations is why? Why'd you corner me in the elevator? What is it? Do you think it's easy? Yeah.
That is brilliant. I mean, like, thank you for sharing that with me, because that is really such a foundational question, to ask anybody who's new, because this is really, whether it's single family like you do, whether it's multifamily like I do, this is a slow burn, right? This is not something that's going to happen overnight. As much as there are people on social media telling you this is like a fast way to get rich, it really isn't. If you cut corners, you will get burned eventually. And you have to understand that this is a great way to create wealth, but it is also a slow way to create wealth. But you're going to create it on a solid foundation if you do it right.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. What's your number two?
So number two, so after you figure out, well, I think my new number one is why do you want to do it? I change my mind. But okay, so assuming that you get past number one, number two, number three now is and this is all assuming you want to do multifamily. You've already kind of had this thought, but I think the next thing that I would want people to think about is, what do they like to do, right? Because what do they enjoy doing? Because given that this is a business that is a slow grind, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're gonna burn out real fast, right? And you can't, unless you're doing sort of small deals on your own. If you start doing anything that involves more than one person, right? So you need to start raising money or whatever, you really got to think about what it is that you enjoy doing. Because if you, for example, really love to sit there looking at Excel, right, and modeling out these deals and figuring out if they work or not, chances are you're going to really hate talking to investors, right?
Probably, yeah.
Right? Like, you really got to think like, so the first question is really like, am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Right? And what do I like to do? Because there are pieces of all of these things must get done. Like, deals must be found, they must be underwritten, investors must be found, investors must be updated. Like, I mean, the business must be marketed. There's all these things that as you go on in this business, they've got to get done. And the thing is, nobody is good at all of them and nobody likes all of them. And if you're in the wrong seat, you're going to be really unhappy and you won't do the work, right? So you got to figure out, like, do I love Excel, or do I love talking to people? Do I love pitching stuff? Like, if you're the Excel guy, like, you're going to hate pitching. And if you're the pitch guy, you're not going to be able to sit still at a desk looking at an Excel spreadsheet, right? So you've got to figure, the big mindset shift that you have to make is that, like, so sit down, be really honest about the things that you like and you don't like, and then understand that all the things that you hate to do, there's someone out there who just loves it, right? So don't project yourself onto the world and assume like, oh, I'll never find anybody to do this for me or with me because it's such an awful job, right? It's only awful for you. There's somebody that loves it. Yeah. There's somebody out there who like loves that and could not stand to do what you're doing, right? So that would be the next thing. Like, get really honest about what piece of the business excites you, and then start thinking about, well, okay, how am I going to find the other people in the business to help me with these other pieces? Because I'll just say, even if you're starting off with relatively small deals, it can get lonely being by yourself. It can get frustrating being by yourself. It's going to be better if you have people that you work with, that you enjoy working with, that you have. This is really critical. You have a values match with, right? And even though you have different skills, you kind of see the world in the same way. Like, all these things are really important. It'll be much more fun, and you will grow faster if you're doing it with other people.
Yeah, so I'll piggyback on that one. I like that one. What I would tell kind of a residential investor is, something to the effect of your 5 closest contacts are going to have to change, right? The 5 friends that you have today that you spend the most time with, some or all of those are going to change in the next 12 to 18 months if you really choose to go down this path. Because what I've seen in history is the 5 friends that you come into real estate investing with won't be the ones that you're with a year from now. Are you okay with that? And again, people don't really understand this, but when you get into this game, it's a slow burn. It's really slow the first 3 or 5 years. There's lots of things that can happen. Surprises, learning lessons are expensive. And if your friends are not 100% positive, encouraging. They're negative. They're saying, "Oh, see, I told you so's," and you're changing and all of that stuff. You'll give up, right? So I often get really harsh in a big room, and I basically say, think about your 5 friends. They suck. Go get new ones. I'm trying to slap people in or shock them, but it's really true. I've changed my personal network, my 5 closest friends, a couple of 3, 4, 5 times in the last 20 years. As we've grown, done more things, we've had to expand. And are you comfortable with that? Right? Some people I talk to is like, no, these are my boys, right? These are my ride or dies. I'm like, well, yeah, not going to work out, in my opinion.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I definitely feel like anytime you start growing a lot, and this business will make you grow. I mean, any business will make you grow, but if you start growing a lot, you're the people that you're attracted to and the people who are attracted to you are going to change. And so a lot of people, it's funny. I've been rereading The War of Art the last few days, which it's just a book I love. And it actually talks about this, that once you start kind of stepping into your authentic self, you kind of piss off people who can't do it.
Exactly.
And they that's where the resentment comes from, like oh, you're getting too big for your britches thing. It's really about them feeling insecure because now they don't have the excuse anymore because they see you doing it, right?
Yeah.
And like this just sort of reminds me of something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I want to email my list about this, but Michael, you're a parent, right? And I remember when I had my first daughter, all of a sudden, like I understood so much stuff that I never understood before, like stuff my parents used to say to me, like just things about
it was eye-opening. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Like suddenly it's like, and I realized that there is a part, there's like a piece of the human experience that you can only experience if you have children, right?
Correct.
And being an entrepreneur is very similar to that. Like you will never grow, like as much as you can grow in a career where you work for other people, you can achieve all kinds of amazing things. And I'm not putting that down in any way. Once you step out on your own without a safety net, like you grow in a way that you just can't grow otherwise, right? And you start experiencing things, and some of them are bad things, right? This is not all good stuff, like, but you start experiencing things, you start growing in ways that you never could have imagined, and you become a different person, and you can never really get back into that box again. So, but what will happen is people around you will start looking at you differently, and some of those people unfortunately will think that, like, oh, now you think you're a big shot, or you're too good for them, or whatever. And it's all because of, like, suddenly it's like the scales have fallen from your eyes, right? I don't know what it is with me in biblical references today, because I'm not religious, but like it's like, like you just see the world in a different way.
You see it,
and you can't unsee it.
Yeah. Growth is uncomfortable, right? It has to happen. It has to happen. Your friends will change, or you won't go anywhere. It's really a fork in the road, in my opinion. So, Jonathan, what's the final one you would recommend? Again, you're just about to get off the elevator. What are you telling them?
The final thing for them to do, then I would say, like, listen, you gotta start taking some action, right? You gotta do something. Like, you can't. At some point, you can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, you can listen to me and Michael every single week. You can take my course, like you can do all these things, but until you actually like do something, like go talk to a broker. I'm not even saying put in an offer yet.
Yeah.
Go do a property tour, right? That alone is going to change your life. Put in an offer, because this is the thing. This is the almost like mystical thing about the way the world works. Like, as soon as you take an action that you can't undo, right? Stuff just starts following from it, right? So you go like reach out to a broker, And then the broker calls you back. And then you're like, okay, now you have a decision to make. Am I going to blow this off? Right.
Yeah.
Or am I going to like answer the phone and talk with the broker and start telling him what I'm looking for? And then when you tell the broker what you're looking for, well, the broker's going to start sending you stuff. And then again, you have a decision like, well, am I going to blow this off? Or am I going to, you know, not blow this off? And stuff just starts to happen and it takes on a life of its own once you walk through that door. So you got to take some kind of action. Your life will change because of it. I guarantee.
Yeah. I guess the last one I would tell the residential folks, again, I don't know anything about them. They just caught me in an elevator, is I'll remind them in residential, you can start lots of ways. You can house hack, right? Single family or small residential. You can do 203K loans if you want to do kind of a live-in flip, or, you know, you can do a long-term, short-term. I would ask them to kind of declare what's right for them. Because again, there's so many ways to get started in this. And I think a lot of folks aren't focused enough. And then from there, it's buy box and all other stuff I've already talked about. But I wanted to try to create 3 new ones that maybe folks haven't heard of. Jonathan, you do a lot of stuff and great stuff in your Facebook group. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so please come to Apartment Investors Club, either on Facebook or at a .com to the end, and you can join my email list. I do want to announce one new thing I forgot to mention in the last show. So I am starting to do meetups in New York City again now.
Ooh,
so
really?
Yes. So the first one is going to be September 26th at 6 p.m. I would like people to RSVP. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to me in one of those places. Either email me through the email list or get on the website. Go to the Facebook group. It's already posted there, the information. But I'm really excited about this. I'm really looking forward to getting back into this, meeting people in person. So I'd love to meet you if you're an ORAT fan. Come out to our meetup on the 26th.
And this is in New York proper.
It's in New York City. It is, ironically enough, in Manhattan at a bar called the Brooklyneer. I still don't know why these people picked the Brooklyneer as the name of their bar in Manhattan, but
it works.
It works. So that's where we'll be. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.